It's a wonderful evening here where we get to reflect on the weekend's action here on the Tony and Tim show. I'm Tony once again.
And I'm Tim.
Very, very brilliant football that we had over the course of the past couple of days. Wrapping that up with last night, us seeing something that we haven't seen in a very, very long time at the Old Trafford. Manchester United getting beaten. This is the first time they've been beaten by such a margin at Old Trafford in over 2 decades.
In over 2 decades, Tony, and getting beaten without reply, that even makes it worse for United. And I did mention just after the game that there is turmoil in this club, and I think, yes, there's turmoil.
Of course, it was very, very interesting, of course, going into that game. We suspected that something can happen. We knew that Tottenham could give us a performance.
Yep.
Manchester United, for all their troubles, we've seen the rifts in the dressing room. Mourinho versus Pogba.
Yep.
We've seen a lot of talk around the transfer dealings that they did over the summer. We did not think Manchester United has fallen this deep, even after the loss to Brighton.
No, this actually plunges them deeper than where they were after losing to Brighton, Tony. And I look at the game right from the setup. I remember showing you the lineup. I'm like, this is a defensive side. Even if you're playing midfielders who are attacking, there is a difference between an attacking midfielder, a Sanchez-like player, and a Fred player. These are two different people. Sanchez gets goals. Fred will give you the energy in the midfield. So I thought right from the lineup, Tony, United got it wrong.
While you mentioned the lineup, we saw, of course, last week we talked about the Manchester United centre-back pairing of Lindelof and Bailly. They came up with a lot of mistakes. They caused a penalty at Brighton. So it was a bit of a shambolic performance. Mourinho comes into this game and takes both out and brings in Chris Smalling and Jones. What a statement from Mourinho, first of all.
Big statement, Tony, there. I mean, everyone was surprised. At least you remove one and say, let me put in just one. But it was an overhaul of the central defense there. These two guys, Smalling and Jones, did perform, Tony, in the first half of yesterday's game. I love their performance. But it seems just like the other guys underperformed in the first half of Brighton. These two guys in the second half lost it, and they're all over the place, Tony. It showed us that Mourinho was right to ask for defenders.
If Mourinho was trying to evaluate both teams, both pairings, we know that he brought in Bailly and Lindelof. We know that he found Chris Smalling and Jones, two players that, in my opinion, have served Manchester United to the best of their ability. What would be your pairing in the next game? Because you tried both.
You tried both, so you try to permute them. I'll not be surprised if Marcus Rojo comes into this mix also, Tony. Because the only defender I can tell you can guarantee a position is Chris Smalling, who also was beaten by Lucas Moura. Maybe you give it a benefit of doubt, but Jones was calamity. He actually survived the penalty there. I thought it was a penalty foul. The other two, Lindelof came in as a substitute and made a horrible back pass there. So all the three can't play in my team. I don't know who to pair now. Smalling with maybe Rojo is also calamity. They are not defenders in Man U.
Very, very interesting. Of course, Manchester United going with that centre-back pairing of Smalling and Jones to start that particular game. But it was also interesting to see the two players that we have been talking about that have been missing out in action. Valencia and Matic were thrown back into the deep end after their injury troubles. Was that another problem for Manchester United?
Big problem, Tony. You could tell there was a lapse of, I think, understanding once in a while, especially with Matic. At least Valencia didn't make many errors, but Matic made about two, one almost leading to a goal, and that I was not surprised he got hoofed off of the line there. So it was not the right time, I think, to bring both of them in now.
And of course, very, very interesting, before we leave Manchester United, we saw Romelu Lukaku, who is playing up top. He's had already a goal in the season, 2 games in, came into the third game, and has a chance to make it 1-0.
Make it
75 million pounds.
Bury that, Tony. I don't know why he's rushing with his weaker foot. Settle and slot it in. 75 million pounds does not buy you that. That is a player of about 15 million pounds.
Sanchez, what has happened to him? He's on 600,000, we understand.
That's a lot of money to pay this guy, and the least you can get from a player paying that amount of money is to have him in
an appearance
every time. And I was surprised And also, I was happy when he came in. You would see that he was piling pressure on the defenders. So, as I mentioned, Tony, everything got wrong right from the lineup.
And of course, that big loss to Spurs, leaving Manchester United trailing their
in 13 bottom half.
It's in the bottom half, 13 3 points, of course, from that particular game. And now with a very interesting goal difference, they've now lost 2 games
-3
in a row, with -4 actually, if you consider the other -3. But for Spurs though, they had not scored a goal at Old Trafford. They hadn't gotten any kind of point at Old Trafford. The manager came in all black. Does this represent a shift, a positive movement for Tottenham, given that we have talked about how much they have in both players? They have a player in Lucas Moura who had a very terrific game yesterday. He came in January, but of course we know how much he could have taken those 6 months to acclimatize to the league. And now it's started looking like a big problem.
He's firing Tony Moura from all cylinders. He was a problem to the United defense last night.
His second goal particularly.
His second goal running, that is old school, it's vintage
classic
football.
number 9.
Yeah, classic number 9, Tony. But just like you've mentioned, we had said in the build-up to this game that the only chance Tottenham had to beat United was going there at this specific time. This is a shambolic United team, not yet gelling, and they had to press them. United was good in the first half, but second half they fell off.
Well, we know that Harry Kane, of course, for all his troubles in the past couple of years, in this particular month of August, he finally broke that hood the previous weekend. He came again with a very brilliantly taken header. I thought that he was a very good typical striker's instinct to bury that header. For Mauricio Pochettino, does it give him a lot of optimism going into this particular season? Now they find themselves second in the log, just behind Liverpool, who are also having a terrific start to the season. 9 points got from 3 games. Last season they tried half and puff. They tried it the season before when Leicester City won the league. They've been trying in the past couple of seasons. Is this the season that maybe it might happen?
Tony, except Lucas Moura in this team, these guys have been there for almost 3 to 5 years, this entire squad. And there is no better time for this squad now to come up and deliver and push for the trophy. I thought they ticked from all boxes, right from the goalkeeper to the front man. And these guys have picked points before from Stamford Bridge, the place they have never picked before. And now picking from Old Trafford gives them a huge boost. And I think the coach must be puffing inside the dressing room saying, this could be our year.
One particular thing before we leave this game, is Mourinho staying at Manchester United?
That's a good question, Tony. And I want to tell the fans out there, he has to look at his next 2 games. And that is away to Burnley and then away to Vicarage Road, Watford. If he loses one of those games, I don't think Mourinho will be in Man United.
Because we will be following that story very interestingly. We saw how interesting he was at the end of the game, coming out to upload all the fans, saying that the players got the treatment they deserve. They got booed off the pitch, of course, at the end of that particular game. He stayed for over a minute trying to upload them for their support there. And of course, he had a very interesting press conference after that, coming out to say that he is the most successful manager in the division currently. So we need to put some respect on his name. So we'll be watching that story as it builds up. We don't know how much Ed Woodward is ready to wait on Mourinho, but it's been, of course, a very interesting start to the season for Mourinho. And of course, they got beaten last night 3-0. Took those 2 goals coming from Lucas Moura and 1 from their captain Harry Kane. Very interesting football. We'll be back with the rest of his results after the break. I see a fine face in a tight dress. I see class, I see